from the best camera settings and how to use your iPhone app, I'm going to teach you how to best maximize your iPhone to shoot both photo and video. I am using the iPhone 16 Pro with the camera controls, so there are extra settings here. If you don't have this, you can skip this part, but if you click on this, you can see here we have a couple of settings. Now I recommend turning on AF and AE lock. Instead of tapping and holding onto the screen, all I have to do is just hold and light press, and it will automatically lock onto my subject. You can now select compatible apps with the camera action button. For me, if I shoot a lot of videos, I will set this to Blackmagic camera. It's actually quite convenient and it's a very intuitive way to use the camera control app button to swap between LUTs. So all I have to do is tap and then switch between log and 709. Next, we have photography styles. I'm not going to go through this today. Next video, I'm going to give you an in-depth how I edit my photos through photography style and Lightroom. Let's go down the list to default record settings. Now, I like to use 4K 24 or 30. If your phone does not have too much storage, then I will probably use 1080 at 30 or 60 FPS. But if you want the best, I would go for 4K 30. Down here, you want to show power format or NTSC depending on the country you're at. Depending on the country, sometimes when you go on the street, there are flickering lights, and by switching to these settings, you're able to shoot a perfect video in the same sync as the street lights, so you won't see any flickering. I turn off auto FPS because I like to control my own shutter speeds. Lock white balance. I usually turn this on because when I shoot a video, I like to color grade my videos, and usually that's in log. And if I'm shifting different places, it might alter the white balance and it makes the footage looks very unprofessional. So I usually turn this on. Recording slow-mo, I shoot this at 4K 120. If you don't have enough storage space, go for the 1080p at 240 FPS. But 4K 120 give the best quality, and that's what I prefer. Cinematic, I shoot in 4K 24 FPS. Already we're going for that cinematic look, so 24 FPS is that natural cinematic motion blur frame rate. So I'll leave it as it is. Now formats, this is quite important, so let's go through this. Camera captured, I will leave it on high efficiency. You want to have maximum storage space. This will compress your files a little bit more. Photo mode, make sure this is at 24 FPS so you're getting that best photo option. I will turn on ProRes resolution control. You can see on the top right we do have a heavy max. You can also long press this button and then it will show up 3 different settings. You have raw max and heavy max. I leave it on heavy max, which is the setting that I have on here as well. It uses the 48 megapixel and it saves a little bit of storage space. ProRAW format, I usually use XL lossless. Now underneath, video capture, this is very important for me. I turn on ProRes because as you can see here on my top left, you can see there is a ProRes button. Now this takes up a lot of storage space, especially if I'm shooting log, and especially if you're shooting at 4K 120 FPS like I do, you need an external storage. But if you're not going to use it and you don't like the extra button on your format, I will just turn this off. Next is preserve settings. This is very important because every time you turn off your camera app, it'll reset to factory default. So you want to make sure you maintain some of the settings that you use all the time. A couple of things I like to turn on. So macro controls I like to turn on. Exposure adjustment, definitely have this on. I'll go through this a little bit later on. And then night mode, I like to turn this on as well. Everything else, I think it's on by default. If I haven't turned it on, you can follow my settings. Now going down the list, you want to turn on your grid composition because it gives you this, you can see that grid look, and it's very important when we shoot photos that we either shoot in the middle or my rule of third where I shoot on the right side of my grid. Now levels is very important. I turn this on especially when I'm shooting video. So as you move your camera, you can see I'm not level with the horizontal line. So right here I am perpendicular. Now everything down below, you can leave it as it is. You can copy my settings. So let's go to the camera app. Now, if this is the first time you're using the camera app, there are a couple of settings you can see here. Our different lens options, and you can tap to switch. You can hold on to it to drag. If you're using the new iPhone 16, you can use the side scroll here to adjust. In video mode, you can tap, switching between 4K and HD or 1080p. Also the frame rate 60 or 120. Now keep in mind at 120 this is only available at certain phones, and as you can see I'm only shooting on the main camera. Okay, so if your phone don't have this setting, don't worry, it just means you haven't paid enough. Now we also have action mode, which I can show you here is a footage of me shooting in action mode. You only use this mode if you're actually walking or running, shooting a running shot, and it'll automatically stabilize your shot. But keep in mind this is a big crop. As you can see, it's only 2.8 rather than 4K. Now on the left we have ProRes. Sometimes I turn this on depending what I'm shooting. And my trip to Italy, I used this phone. I shot everything in ProRes and I color graded in post, and it came out, I think, looks great. Going to the left, we have a meter bar here. Now this is your exposure. You want to set this either to negative. Usually I put on negative 0.7 and leave it as it is. You're exposing for the highlights. What that means is you don't want your highlights to overexpose. Can you see that? The chair is overexposed. I usually put it on roughly around -3 or 0.7, and then you're underexposing the shadows. There's a lot more detail in the shadows than there is an overexposed highlight. And especially at night when you're shooting, if you're shooting indoors, concerts, somewhere with not a lot of light, you don't want to overexpose because the camera will just overexpose everything for the shadows, and you're getting a lot of noise, and then you have to bring back the shadows and crush everything, and you're just losing a lot of quality. On the left, we have the flash button. As you know, you can toggle that between on. If you want to turn on the flash, you have the macro button as well. Turn this on, and then automatically I'm shooting macro. Now the middle arrow button, you can press this and it will automatically show your exposure. Also, you can switch between different modes, so that you have the flash. You can turn on the flash if you wanted to, or you can turn on the ProRes option. If we go to photo mode, it is slightly different. We've got the heavy max on the top left, which I'll turn it off. You can also turn on live, which I use all the time now. Now usually you want to focus on your subject just by holding onto your subject and lock it into place so the focus doesn't shift. You can move up and down to adjust the brightness, right? Top right, we also have the different styles. This is only available in the latest iPhone 16. You can see here I'm using different tones to shoot different moods, so to say, and you can move it around to find a setting that you like. So next episode, I'm going to give you my settings and how I edit my photos through iPhone and also Lightroom. One other thing, you can set timers on your photos as well. If you don't see this, just press the arrow in the middle. Okay, press it again, you'll see it. The timer, and then you're either shooting 3 seconds, 5 seconds, or 10 seconds. So basically, if I shoot, it's going to wait 3 seconds, and then it's going to take a photo just like that. Another tip is with the crop mode, you've got 4:3, you've got square, and you've also got 16:9. Now the thing with this is, if you've taken it in 6:9, if you go back to your photos, it's shot in 16:9. This basically just crops your photos. You're actually losing quite a bit of quality. So it is good to have a guide, but usually I would turn this off. I usually shoot in the best maximum setting of 4:3 and then just crop it in post. But it gives you a little rough guidance on what your photo might look like, say Instagram by 6:9, but I still shoot it in 4:3. Hopefully that was helpful. Next episode, I'm going to show you how I edit my photos. But if you want to see how I color grade my Apple log footage, go check out this video.